Hey folks, Dr. Bret Weinstein here. Heather and I have moved on from beautiful Ronda, España. We are now in Granada. This is the third video reporting on an experiment that I've been running on myself. Longtime Dark Horse viewers will know I have a severe wheat allergy. I can't eat the slightest amount of wheat without having many different symptoms show up. But like many allergy sufferers, I've heard that when people go to Europe, sometimes they can consume European wheat without a problem. Now, I didn't think this was going to work for me, and the reason I didn't is that my allergy seems to react to a wide range of things, including oats and spelt being an ancient relative of wheat. And my thought was, if I have an allergy that's broad enough to react to things that even aren't quite wheat, then European wheat is certainly going to be close enough to trigger me. Well, I was surprised that that was not the case. I started eating European wheat, and to my amazement, to Heather's amazement, no reaction whatsoever. And I was delighted to discover that. I got to eat some things I haven't eaten in years, like wheat bread, croissant, good stuff. Now, things have gotten more interesting. 2 nights in, I suddenly had a reaction. My hands fell asleep when I was in bed. And this is something that I did not originally realize was a symptom of anything, but when I took wheat out of my diet, the nightly struggle I had had where my hands would go numb and when I would wake up they would tingle like crazy, that vanished completely, as did my migraine headaches, gastrointestinal distress, all sorts of stuff. So my symptoms here in Europe returned, beginning with the tingling of the hands, and then I had a headache that was persistent over the course of 24 hours. I couldn't shake it, didn't respond to aspirin, didn't respond to coffee, didn't respond to copious amounts of water. Those are the things that I usually can cure a headache with. So this was clearly an allergic reaction. So Heather and I thought about it, and what we initially concluded was that that must mean that indeed I am sensitive to European wheat, probably not as sensitive as to American wheat, but that having consumed enough of it, my allergy was finally triggered. But I learned a lot from comments on the first 2 videos. One thing I learned is that, as much as I would expect, that there would be no American wheat in Europe because American wheat contains pesticides that are not allowed here, it turns out that there is a fair amount of American wheat that is imported to Europe. For what reason, I don't know. But nonetheless, in discussing the development of my symptoms, Heather and I both concluded that actually the most likely explanation for the pattern of evidence is that I don't react to European wheat, but that I got something that was actually American in origin. So this changes my direction going forward with this experiment. What I was planning to do when I thought I had had no reaction whatsoever here was I was going to go home and I was going to test American wheat and see whether or not my allergy had in fact disappeared across the board. And although that may sound implausible, it can happen because allergies are the result of an immune response that then produces memory cells, so that every time the person encounters the antigen in question, the immune system ratchets up quickly and it starts fighting what it thinks is a pathogen and is really just an irritant. So if one is very careful about not encountering an antigen, eventually those memory cells can expire. Now, I didn't think that was very likely in my case because it's impossible to be an American who does not do all of their own cooking and not be periodically poisoned with wheat. There are mistakes in the labeling of foods. People make mistakes in the kitchen. Sometimes people are careless. So nonetheless, I didn't think it was very likely that my allergy had simply expired, but discovering that I wasn't reacting to European wheat was going to force me to run that experiment. I don't think I need to run that experiment anymore because I know that my allergy still exists. And the question is, did my symptoms returning result from my finally having triggered that allergy with European wheat, or did it result from contamination that I was unaware was a risk here in Europe? And I've decided to test that hypothesis by returning to eating wheat here and seeing if my allergy responds. I'm going to be very careful in the sourcing of that wheat, and there's one other wrinkle, which is that my symptoms have to be completely gone from the allergic reaction that I was suffering a couple nights ago before I can run that experiment and have any sense of what the result implies. So, my symptoms are almost gone. I'm going to give it another 12 to 24 hours, and then I'm going to very carefully source some bread made with European wheat. I'm going to try it, and if my allergy returns, that's not necessarily a clear indication of anything. But if it fails to, that's a pretty strong indication that European wheat is not triggering me, because my immune system is now on high alert. It should take very little European wheat to trigger the return of those allergic symptoms, if in fact I am responding to it. On the other hand, if it was contamination, there should be no response at all. So, I hope that was clear. I'm certainly now fascinated to figure out which of these two things has explained the pattern of evidence, and I will certainly update you when I have more information. Thanks for watching.